On July 6th, Rudy Wright. On July 7th, David Myers. On July 8th, yours truly. On July 11th, Jeff Bronnenberg and Sarah Willis. On July the 13th, Lynn Lair. And on Saturday, if you see Steve Walker, you should wish him a happy birthday. So those are our birthdays. Well, Bill, welcome to the club. You joined a very distinguished worldwide and international group as well. I was looking on the Rotary.org website, and some of the famous names that came up as members of Rotary ring true with me. Jean Sibelius, famous Finnish composer. Dr. Charles Mayo, co-founder of the Mayo Clinic. Marconi, the inventor of the radio, of the wireless radio. Thomas Mann, who was a Nobel laureate in literature. The polar explorer Richard Byrd. For the Democrats in the room, Dianne Feinstein. For the Republicans in the room, Richard Lugar. For the boxing fans in the room, Filipino senator, but also world boxing champion, Manny Pacquiao. Frank Borman, the astronaut. Franz Lehar, also a great composer. He wrote The Merry Widow. And for those of you in the retail business, if there are any of us left, J.C. Penney, founder of the J.C. Penney Company. Well, of course, this week, tomorrow, I guess, one of our presidential candidates is going to announce his vice presidential nomination. So, being a person that lived in Cleveland for about 9 years, I thought I'd do a little research. And I was right in recalling that the last time Cleveland hosted a national political convention was in 1936. Their nominee was Kansas Governor Alf Landon. He was a liberal, yes, a liberal Republican who was bitterly opposed, by the way, by the former president, Herbert Hoover. Of course, he suffered a crushing defeat, the worst defeat in history of a presidential candidate when FDR ran for his second term. However, that defeat was eclipsed in 1964 by Barry Goldwater. Now, if you think I'm just beating up on the Republicans, I think if we're going to be fair, we should mention that George McGovern eclipsed that record in 1972. Of course, we all remember that President Richard Nixon would eventually be forced to resign. Maybe there's some justice in the situation. McGovern went on to become a full professor at Northwestern University in Evanston, incidentally, the home of Rotary International. President Nixon spent the rest of his life in a condo in New Jersey. Well, I couldn't leave you without at least one Cleveland joke. It's career day in the elementary school where each student talks about what their father does. Little Johnny, of course, is last. And finally the teacher calls on him to talk about his dad. Johnny comes up in front of the class. He says, "My daddy is a dancer in a gay bar. He takes off his clothes for other men." The teacher is shocked, and she calls for an early recess for the rest of the class. She gently sits Johnny down and asks him, "Is this really true about your dad?" Johnny says, "No, but I was too embarrassed to say that he plays for the Cleveland Browns." Originally it was the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that joke doesn't work anymore. Right? Yeah, thank goodness. With apologies to the Curry family, who I love very much. In closing, on a serious note, I know on Tuesday night, Reverend Longcrier and other members of the community were involved in an important meeting in the Ridgeview community. I just thought it might be time to close with these comments. From His Holiness the Dalai Lama, compassion is not religious business. It is human business. It is not luxury. It is essential for our own peace and mental stability. It is essential for human survival. I managed, after a long trip, to get up and drag myself to church on Sunday. Our poor priest, Carla Wogan, had spent a week at summer camp and came back with laryngitis. So she managed to squeak out a rather short sermon, but I thought she had a lot of good things to say. To paraphrase her brief sermon, it is always a good thing to be merciful, but this week the application of mercy needs a little extra effort. Pray for the peace of our nation and world, and be extra kind to those you encounter in life's journey. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Probably need to mention, some of you probably surprised to see me up here if you weren't here 2 weeks ago. Just to make sure everybody's aware, Bob Conklin has accepted a job in Florida, so he is no longer going to be the next president of our club. So John Rambo has graciously, and I see a couple of shocked faces. John Rambo has graciously stepped up to go basically from president nominee to president-elect to president here in about a 2-week time frame. So him and the other new officers will be inducted next week, and you will be done with me. So, yes, thank you. Best news you've heard all day. So that is kind of the plan. We still have the survey we will revisit, that we will give that information out. Obviously, some of this stuff has taken precedence, and getting John inducted is certainly top of the list. So we're going to be doing that next week, but we will come back and visit the answers from the survey, and then also we will address there's been some discussion about the name change, and we will address that as well here in the coming weeks. So, and if anybody's interested, they are taking applications for district governors. If anybody would like to throw their hat in the ring, let me know and I can get you the information. So, and with that, John Rambo, soon to be President John Rambo, has our program today.
Thank you, President Mark. As all of you,
much longer.
President Mark. As all of you know, I'm John Rambo, and I am a Rotarian. I'd hold your applause for my presidency until after the end of my term. It is my pleasure today to introduce Lindsay Kiesler, who's the Vice President at the Catawba County Chamber of Commerce. She's here today to speak to you about Leadership Catawba, which our President Mark is on the advisory board of. And do we have any graduates of Leadership Catawba here in the club? See a few hands going up. Yes. I myself am a graduate. I was in the class of 2007. I actually started Leadership Catawba the month before I was inducted to the Hickory Rotary Club. So I highly recommend it for anyone, whether they've been here a long time or just moved here. It helped me a lot because it was a year after I moved here that I started it. And I learned so much about Catawba County that actually by the time I was through, people thought I'd lived here forever. So I highly recommend it. Lindsay, the first time I met Lindsay was a couple of years ago, and she had contacted me about having our, not our improv troupe, but the Salisbury improv troupe, now are the Foxes, which has performed a few times at the Hickory Community Theater, come to do the Chamber's annual meeting that year. And I was just thoroughly impressed with her energy and her professionalism and her knowledge. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Lindsay. You can take it wherever you need to.
All right, I'm going to make my way across the room over here. But good afternoon, Rotarians. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome, John. Thank you for the compliments as well. But also thank you for your hospitality, for allowing me to come and talk about Leadership Catawba today. It's kind of ironic that I start after the Great Sunshine Report, because I am going to begin by telling you about one of my favorite comic strips by our friend Charles Schulz in the Peanuts game. All right, Lucy was at Linus again. She just could not understand Linus's obsession with his beloved security blanket. With a snarky tone, she said, "Linus, must you carry that stupid blanket around with you all the time? What are you going to do when you grow up? Adults can't carry security blankets." "Never," said Linus. "When I grow up, I'm just going to make it into a sports jacket." Lucy huffed and stomped off. Later that day, when Linus was taking a nap, she took it upon herself to take advantage of the opportunity to get rid of it once and for all. She snuck into his room, snatched the blanket, ran outside, and buried it in the backyard. When Linus awoke, of course, he realized that it was missing, and and just went into an anticipated, just frantic. He looked for it, but to no avail. So, Peanuts fans, who do you think came to the rescue? Snoopy! You're right. Snoopy, who was observing all of the hysterics from his doghouse, sniffed it out, dug it up, and returned it to the very relieved Linus, who returned his appreciation with a big hug. You Peanuts fans probably can predict the scene at the end. Snoopy lying flat on his back, gazing up at the sky, and here's what he thought. Every now and then, my existence is justified. Does that convict you all like it did me? Do you wake up every morning, put your feet on the ground, and think to yourself, how can I justify my existence? This takes being intentional. It takes taking risks, going out of your way, taking ownership, and to me, this really defines leadership. At the Chamber, one of our key priorities is developing leaders at all levels. We need a pipeline of community leaders that will take the baton and move this community forward. So you guys probably are aware, about 4 years ago, we, business, healthcare, local government, and education came together and hired a facilitator, or a consultant, I should say, for the Southern Growth Policies Board, Tad Abernathy, to come and work with our community for a year. He actually worked with 300 plus, and many of you probably were involved in this process. Help us to take a really hard look at ourselves, answer some really difficult questions, but most importantly, to identify key priorities that we really needed to address to move the needle and transform this community through innovation. During that process, he had many stakeholder focus group meetings. I just remember this story. He had two in particular, one with the business owners, one with the elected officials. And he asked them, he said, take this note card, write down the top 3 people that you would go to get things done in Catawba County. Okay, so everyone handed them in. What were the results? Can you guess? A lot of finger pointing. The business leaders named elected officials, the elected officials named business leaders. So what became very obvious, which, actually showed up in the report at the end, Ted said, you have a leadership void in Catawba County. Now, he didn't mean that we lack leaders, because as you all know, many of you around this room, I'm looking out, and very well-respected, talented, dynamic leaders are in this community who run businesses and run local government. But what he meant was you lack community leaders, individuals who are willing to roll up their sleeves and talk about the solutions. So this quote I thought was very pertinent to the discussion. It said, leaders think and talk about solutions, followers think and talk about the problems. How many of you have been in a room with someone, even in the last week, who talked about a problem in Catawba County? It's more difficult to talk about a solution. So, as a part of Innovate Catawba, they challenged us, and Michael is actually the chair of the leadership work group. So Michael challenged us and the group to expand our leadership development opportunities in the county. So of course, Leadership Catawba is our capstone program. This is our longest running program at the Chamber. It's going in our 43rd year of developing community leaders. So what is leadership? And obviously many of you are familiar because I saw you raise your hands that you're a part of the alumni with myself. We basically, leadership, the point is a 6-month program. We inform, equip, and develop our 3 goals. On your tables, I've included a spreadsheet of a sample schedule that a participant would go through, and I didn't make a copy for everyone, but there are 1 or 2 on each table. And as you can tell, each month we focus on a different priority which aligns with Innovate Catawba, that community strategic plan that we set forth several years back. Reinventing community, workforce connectivity, telling the story, serving our community, building for jobs, small business and entrepreneurship. These are 6. Each month we focus on one of those issues, but also celebrate a lot of successes. So you can just take a peek of a sampling of how busy. Those days are really full. In addition, so it's 84 hours total if you complete the program. 16 of those hours are spent in a classroom setting doing more interactional workshops and situational leadership scenarios, simulations, case studies. Actually, I'm talking with Dr. Van Horn for this year's class to do a workshop on how can I coach or mentor either a constituent. How do I manage upward if I don't have any direct reports? So as you can tell, we're developing these leaders not only to plug in and serve our community, but to make an impact in their own workplace. In addition, we've got a team building retreat. You'll notice on the application we were going to go to the Whitewater Center, but that's not going to happen. And then finally, these participants are encouraged to adopt a project which directly addresses one of the foundational issues that we cover in the program. And the key is to make it sustainable, not just, we have poverty as a problem in Catawba County. We're not challenging them to feed people, we're challenging them to, what is the root cause of poverty? All right, so how can you help? First of all, you can invest. If you haven't gone through the program yourself, this does develop leaders on all levels. So I mentioned we've got some at exit 5, we have some at exit 245. So you may have, are at the end of your career, but you still have time to justify your existence, right? So invest either in yourself or someone else. Pay it forward to someone maybe on your team, your staff, or even a son or daughter. You can sponsor the program. We're always looking for financial support to sustain the operations of this program. It is a pretty expensive program, as you can probably imagine. But finally, you graduates, can you raise your hand again? I challenge you guys to tell about your experience and encourage someone else to opt in and take the opportunity. Just a point that we're really proud of, in 2015, 100% of the participants said that the program exceeded their expectations. And we are proud to boast many names of legacy leaders who have really contributed to make our community what it is today, and also push it forward to the future. So hundreds of alumni. In closing, and I thought this was a great quote. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Finally, I challenge you to reflect on your own impact. Going back to our favorite cartoon, K9, how will you continue to justify your existence? We can make a living by what we get. We can make a life by what we give. Thank you again for having me. I wish blessings to each of you. If you have questions or you want to register someone to attend or participate in this year's class, we do have 4 spots remaining. We extended the enrollment capacity this year because of the overwhelming demand. So we have currently 26. We can take up to 30. So just see me afterwards if you have any questions. But again, thank you all for letting me be here.
Have any questions for Lindsay? Lindsay, will you talk a little bit about just the group and the bond that the group forms together?
Testing. Oh, there we go. Absolutely. We only select 25 to 30 participants on purpose. This is a perfect size to, of course, logistically, but in terms of building that camaraderie and building those relationships, I'm telling you, if you ask any of the alumni in the room, I'm sure you still maintain contact with someone, at least one person that you went through Leadership Catawba with. And Mark, maybe you could even speak with that. I mean, him and I graduated in the same
we're in the same class.
class, and you laugh together. You celebrate a lot of personal victories, professional victories, and you really just get to know these people on a different level. And then too, there's a bit of accountability there, because you know that when you sign up for something like this, you raise your hand and you're willing to serve. So afterwards, the point is that you plug in and you connect and you impact our community. So that's the accountability piece as well is important to note.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
What is the cost of the program?
The cost, and I forgot to mention, there are applications on the tables as well, and it does give a little bit more of a deeper dive into what to expect and the dates and commitment. The cost is $675 per participant.
Any other questions?
I did see Gary is going to go through leadership this year. Gary is on a roster for 2016, 2017. I don't think I've missed. Oh, Meg. Meg has Candace Tate, with the crossing at Holler Mill. She's going to be going through. So again, thank you for your support. Thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you do, not only with leadership, but with the Chamber General. And we have just a thank you book of quotes for you. Thank you very much. I would encourage folks to look into the Leadership Catawba. I enjoyed it immensely, and as Lindsay said, continue to speak with a lot of the classmates that I went through with, and we've sent folks every year since I've been, and they all have had a good time as well. Now, I don't know, they might just like being away from me for a day and a half every month, but it's been well worth it. And I feel like they've grown as people, and they've come back as better employees. I think it's been a great investment of our time. Ellen, could you come on down?
Mark,
Clarence.
let me again take a point of personal privilege. When we think about Leadership Catawba, I think this is an appropriate time for this club to go on record in appreciation and remembering one of the great leaders of this community, Charlie Dixon.
Yes.
And we know we've got a couple of Rotarians who were partners in the firm with him, but Charlie Dixon, he shared his leadership skills about as unselfishly as anybody that I've ever known personally. And he shared them in so many areas of our community that certainly made us a better, stronger community. And we certainly want to remember Charlie's family and those people that he's worked with over the years. And I think that memorial service is Sunday afternoon at First Presbyterian Church. This community needs and welcomes more Charlie Dixons as we go forward and continue to grow and be the community we have been and can be even better in the days ahead. So thank you for letting me share that.
Clarence, thank you. I appreciate you not letting us forget that. Very well said. Do not forget your Alzheimer's buckets. What do we got today?
We have $54.
We raised 54?
Yes.
And then so for a total of?
Oh, I'll teach you.
I don't have my glasses on. Looks like about 1374. And about 30 cards and one joker left. So, Lindsay, can you do the honors for us, please?
Yeah. Do I need to mix it up?
No, it's mixed.
Oh, it's mixed?
Yeah, but you can do it again.
Last three are 394. 394. Nobody?
I'll write one. I'll write 394 on this.
Helen's got it. All right, grab yourself a card. Ten of diamonds. Free lunch. Free lunch. All right. Let's close with the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?